Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Crayden, broadcasting live from Ottawa. Thank you for joining me on this Saturday morning. We're about to get some snow, apparently, in the Ottawa area. So I haven't even raked the leaves. I've been so involved in the news, and especially the ostrich story. I haven't even raked the leaves. I'm going to run out and do that after this broadcast, and then I hate leaving leaves on the ground when the snow flies because you don't get them again, because this could be the beginning of more snow. We're supposed to have a very severe winter. Anyway, we'll be back in mere moments here with more.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. No. We'll do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Yeah, do it live. It's another hard day, I have to say. And I was speaking to one of my sources on the ground who I've spoken to quite extensively over the last couple of weeks, especially. He gives me sort of an update on what's actually happening with the supporters and with the CFIA and the RCMP, how they're interacting, what's being said. And he's always asked me, please don't mention my name on the air, just because I don't want consequences from the government. And I totally understand that. But all I can say is he's very, very well placed. He knows what's going on. And, what he told me yesterday was not, he told me about the marksmen, by the way, which, and he said they looked like they were military or ex-military. Now, if you're ex-military yourself or military, you know what that means. There's a certain bearing, a certain look. And my question is, were these marksmen borrowed from the Canadian Armed Forces for this purpose? If so, that would have been an aid to the civil power. Now, how do I know that? Well, I was a public affairs officer for years. I joined at a time when there was lots of aid to the civil power going on, where the military was being used by the federal government or provincial governments for purposes that they could not do themselves. It's usually in relief of floods or cleanup of some kind. The mayor of Toronto actually used it to shovel snow, which was ridiculous. But they can use it as they did in the Oka crisis. Remember that, when the Mohawks in Montreal taken over a golf course, and the Sûreté, the Quebec provincial police were unable to deal with the situation, so they called in the armed forces. And it was a standoff for weeks, and basically a massive public affairs exercise. And I know most of the people involved in that. I worked with them when I was in uniform. And it was a massive public affairs exercise, more so than it was a overtly military one, because nobody wanted to kill anybody. It would have been a disaster. So nobody died in that. It was not like Waco or other operations in the States where the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms went berserk, and people ended up in a shooting match and lives were lost. I'm happy to say no lives were lost in the exercise, because the funny thing is, I'm sure nobody really remembers it today. They would remember it if people had died. So why am I telling you all this? Well, if the CFIA and basically representing the federal government wanted the Canadian Armed Forces involved in this operation, they would have had requested it publicly and officially through an aid to the civil power. None of that happened. So we're demanding to know who these marksmen were. I'll show you some pictures of them in a minute. They came onto the farm site, I wouldn't say jovial, but just looking just as carefree, like they were going to start a game of touch football. It's just so easy to kill things, which is not an attitude, by the way, that I remember many members in the Canadian Armed Forces having. They respected life, and they knew, especially if they had lost people. And in the Air Force, we didn't lose a lot of pilots, but we did lose pilots from now and again. And every life was considered to be a tragedy if it was lost. And most military people are bloodthirsty or sanguinary or crazy for war or for conflict. They know that they're there so we don't have war. So whoever these clowns were who seem to be getting their jollies off of shooting defenseless ostriches, I don't even know if you can call them marksmen, because it took them 6 hours to kill these birds. Were they really that good shots? These are questions that need to be answered, because the cover-up continues, not begins. The cover-up continues at Edgewood, BC's Universal Ostrich Farms. This is a wasteland today, by the way. If you've seen pictures out, I'll show you something. This is a wasteland. Yeah, there it is there. Now, they have been attempting to truck away these bodies. It's been a disaster because, it's not easy to truck away God knows how many ostriches, because we still haven't got a number. I'm seeing the news media report anywhere from 398 down to 100. We still haven't got a figure. And how many ostriches they kill? Why don't we? Because I believe they were killing the ostriches for weeks. And I think that's been proven now, because there's no way there's 398 ostriches or even 330 ostriches here. They've been lying to you. As I've told you for the past 6 weeks, there has been foul play, no pun intended, going on here for the past 6 weeks. They initiated this call weeks ago in anticipation of the Supreme Court giving them the go-ahead. And they knew they would not have to account for any of their actions, because once the call is over, it's over, and they move on to their next assignment. So, do you feel numb today? Anyway, to get back to my source on the ground, I said, how did it feel watching all of this yesterday? And he said, it was like watching a horror movie, except we couldn't leave the theater afterwards. It was real. I thought, wow, that's exactly it. This unfolded like a horror movie. These bastards, by the way, that last post I put on X, I rarely ever swear in real life. I never swear on the media. I swore in that because I am damn angry about what happened. Not just because of the atrocity that occurred there, but the fact that these people are lying and they're getting away with it. The mainstream media continues to cover their asses. The government continues to lie about this being an issue of health and safety. They won't acknowledge these were healthy birds. They know goddamn well they were, excuse my language. They won't admit that because they don't want to look like the fools and the clowns and the goons and the thugs they are. That's why they won't acknowledge it. So here is a very interesting post. And I saw this, and this just absolutely wrecked me when I read this yesterday. This is from Caroline Nah. Oh, sorry, Caroline Nah. This is a Facebook post. I think it was also an X. This just tore my heart out. She says, Caroline writes, they were gunned down in the dark over hours. I watched the lives from 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. and had to log off around 9 because I couldn't take any more. The gunshots, the agonizing sounds of the birds, the screaming. By the time I muted the sound, I think the count was around 600 bullets. It was absolutely effing sickening. The anger I feel is unreal, and I will not be silenced. Caroline, neither will I. This is why I'm going to continue to look into the cover-up that's been going on at this farm. I'm going to continue to ask questions because it didn't end with the brutal extermination of hundreds of ostriches at the Universal Ostrich Farms. It will continue at other farms unless we all get off our asses and demand answers and say enough is enough. This organization is not going to be unaccountable. It's not going to do whatever the hell it wants. It's not going to override property rights, the rights to livestock, the rights to livelihood. No more. It's over. We're going to fight back, and we're going to hold you accountable for what you did at this farm and what you think you're going to do at other farms across mainly Western Canada, because you like to pick on the Western Canadians most, because it's not vote rich for your Liberal Party that you serve so well, your Liberal government that you're in the pocket of. No, you really like to pick on Western farmers, especially ridings like Edgewood, which is a conservative riding. So you relish this. You really, really enjoyed this, didn't you? Monsters of the CFIA. Incompetent monsters who couldn't even count, who couldn't administer basic health and safety to these animals. You abused them. You neglected them. You maltreated them. You exercised cruelty against them. That's the record. And I tell you what else has to happen. The CFIA needs to be sued. Civilly sued for breaking the terms of the Supreme Court order and gross animal cruelty and negligence. Gross. And for an inhumane and inhuman method of killing these animals. They suffered for hours. In fact, we know some were still alive in the morning, twitching. That must have really got you guys excited, eh? You love to see the suffering. And to have the damned nerve to suggest this was the most humane way of killing these animals. You people don't know your elbow from your ass. You are so stupid that it's embarrassing to say you're part of Canada. You're not part of my Canada anymore. This was the most inhumane and most inhuman way of killing these poor, defenseless animals. And you chose that because you wanted to invoke and inflict the most pain and suffering, not just on the birds, but on Katie Pasitney, her family, and the supporters there who cried. I'm not going to show Katie clawing at the fence again, pleading for you to stop. No. But that's what happened. And you enjoyed that too, didn't you? You enjoyed that too. Here's evidence of just how inhumane this culling was.
Your camera?
Two birds over to the left of that bird. It looks like there's another bird that's alive.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, I gotta send this to Keith.
What?
Right there.
Wait, it's not clear. Okay.
Right there.
They show me?
No, that's his. Can you stop
With
videoing
the
me?
legs up?
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Oh, I see what you mean. Fuck. Oh, okay.
If you have the biggest picture and she's taking a picture, she can make
can
it
actually.
bigger.
No, I could zoom in as long as it's picture. Like. Okay, I gotta sit still. I can't move that much.
One on the left moved when I was first looking at him.
No, they're not moving.
Maybe.
Okay, so
I have trouble watching that. That's really humane, folks. That's really humane, you bastards at the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and you bastards in the RCMP who protected these killers. From whom? These terrible, violent supporters who never lifted a finger, who never did anything except plead, who never did anything except ask for mercy, and they got none. They got none. Is that what you were protecting the CFIA from, those horrible, nasty supporters? Eh? The RCMP is a defunct, discredited, demonized police organization that works for the Liberal government only. Not for you, not for me. I grew up respecting the police. I was in uniform, the Canadian Armed Forces, for over 12 years. I worked with police. I respected the police. I don't respect the RCMP anymore. They're not on your side. They're not on my side. They weren't on the side of Katie, their family, or this farm. They were there to kill and to facilitate this slaughter. And that's all they were ever there for. Sorry. There's more evidence. And here's the goddamn killers. Not wearing their protective gear. No hazmat gear. Nope. No PPE. Nothing. Oh, I thought these birds were dangerous. I thought they posed a health hazard. What a bunch of seamy hypocrites you are. What a bunch of lousy, mendacious idiots you are. Nobody's going to notice. Yeah, the world has noticed. You people are clowns. You're a gong show. You're a gong show on the road, visiting farms to harass and to kill. Here we are again. Look at that. No PPE. Whoops. Wonder what happened there. And here's another example. This is Chris Dacey. Once again, thank you, Chris, for sticking it out as long as you have. It's been 6 weeks, I think you've been there. I mean, we all know this is not the place if you want to make big money as a journalist, because this story has been sat on by social media, except X. There was a lot on X yesterday. But very few broadcasters, so-called independent media broadcasters, dared to talk about this show. Chris was not one of them, obviously. He was there on scene. I was not one of them. Viva Fry was not one of them. We talked about it quite a lot. In fact, for the past, I would say, 45 days, I have not missed talking about the ostrich farm with every show I put on the air. Maybe it's not the whole show. Sometimes it has been. But I've talked about it every day because I think it's of national importance. Some so-called small C conservative broadcasters had no guts to talk about this story. They were cowards because they thought it might hurt their ratings, and they thought Pierre Poilievre might not approve because, Pierre Poilievre doesn't exactly like the fact these ostriches are being called, but he has said nothing about the ostriches per se. Little bit of criticism about the CFIA confusing people. What a pile of bullshit that was. Sorry, not good enough. And the people on this farm know it wasn't good enough. I want to go to my X site before we get to the budget. And I know I will get to the budget today. If I've seemed a little negligent about the budget this week, it's because I really haven't given a shit about the budget this week. And it's only coming to me now about how we're getting fleeced again by the Liberal government, and they're spending your money again on LGBTQ projects, on social reengineering, just like Justin Trudeau, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's have a look. I always like to go to my X site here. Here we go. Yeah. There's so much good stuff on here. And I encourage you, let's get to the top. Because I was looking at this morning. I encourage you to, this is my last tweet. I'm not going to read this because some people are a little surprised that I was so angry in this. But I encourage you to have a look at this. I encourage Katie to repost this. She's not reposted any of the material. I had an article up on the Post Millennial, Blaze Media. I did 4 or 5 broadcasts in the last couple of days about this, and I don't know why. There's none of it has been reposted. But I encourage you to do that, Katie. I really do. I don't understand why you're not. That's, of course, is today's show. You know, a big finger to Super Save Group for doing all this hard work on behalf of the CFIA, taking their garbage. Where do you think the carcasses are going? Well, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. They could be going to a good friend of Mark Carney. And believe me, whoever takes these carcasses is going to make a lot of money off of it. But Super Save facilitated this whole operation. They were part of the waste chain throughout. We reported on that. I don't know if there were carcasses in those dumpsters. But I don't know why they went from a gravel pit to Super Save to landfill sites in the area. We're not even sure how many landfill sites they went to or what was in those dumpsters. We know there were septic tanks being removed in the middle of the night, which could have been pulverized, liquefied ostriches, but we'll never know because all of that is being destroyed as we speak. The evidence is being destroyed. We'll never know. Here we are. The ostriches being removed in large blue bins is no longer a conspiracy theory. United We Stand writes, these guys have been trying to unload this large blue bin filled with ostrich carcasses for at least a half hour without any success so far. I don't think they thought this one through. I don't think they thought this one through either. Get this. We talked about this yesterday. Cloned meat will be on your shelf, grocery shelves, and you won't know it. There's been no review of safety for humans. No labeling indicated it is cloned. I'm not making this up. We reported on this yesterday. It will be on your grocery shelves, and you will not know if it's cloned meat. It will be no indication about that. And once again, the government is celebrating this. And incredible. Here's more sites. I'll just show a bit of this. This is Daisy Media. I mean, it's just incredible. Just incredible. And I can't wait to see more. It's shocking. So, you know, we have been reporting on this for weeks that there has been something going on here with the waste at this farm. We want answers. We're not going to be content with, well, it's all over. The operation is all over now, and you're not going to find out. Yeah, we are going to find out. Yeah, we are. This is a great meme. This is Mark Carney's legacy. Why are politicians and the Carney police force so smug and proud? What they've done is in plain sight. We know and see the propaganda psyop in lies they're unrolling to cover up. They're killing hundreds of healthy animals to destroy a farm family in an orgy of violence. We will not forget. I love this. This is the new Canadian flag, and it stands for brutality, death, and killing. Nicholas Holscher, we had him on the show just days ago. He again said these are healthy ostriches. What is going on in the minds of these moronic government bureaucrats? Death was going on in their mind. That's what was going on. You know, Nicholas, thank you for your hard work on this file. You're one of the real experts out there. I encourage you to read my Substack column that went up yesterday. A lot of you have. I'm very proud of this. It's got a lot of research in there about what transpired, but also there's a heartfelt, a very emotional message about what this meant for Canada and not just the farm. Yeah, and Sonia Stewart is encouraging a bit of checking around. I think we need a full investigation and audit of this. And Anyway, we're going to get on to the budget now. And I thank you. Thank you for watching this. This has been, as I said, it's numbing to realize they got away with it. But they can get away with it for now. We're going to continue to go after them in as many ways as possible.